Let me give a little story. So I am a working mom of three. I have a 10-year age gap between my oldest and my youngest, which I realized you could see above my head. And so the lead up was I had just had my third child, having so I guess 10 and 8-year-old at home and now a newborn. And I was on maternity leave working at the world's largest international bank. We'll keep it at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a phone call on maternity leave, got a phone call. It was like, can you take a new job? And being that perfectionist go-getter
With
that I
your
was
company or
with my current company,
right. Okay.
with my current company, I was on maternity leave and I was serving as the U.S. Chief Data Officer. So I was very U.S., but mindful, it was an international company. And the phone call was, can you take the global role for one of our business? It was global making and markets. And I didn't even hang up the phone and think about it. I said yes. Because that's what you do, right? You're like, I got this, right? Now, mind you, I'm on maternity leave with my third child. And so what I did was I didn't even finish my maternity leave. I went back to work within 2 weeks of that call and took on the role. Now, global at the World's International Bank means what? Travel, travel, travel. And so here I am with I think at that time he was 8 weeks old, baby, and I was a nursing mother, and I was on a plane to London. And when I came back on the Friday, the Sunday, I would fly out to Hong Kong, and then I would come back and I would maybe be home for a week and I would do it all over again. And so I would go with my little, I don't know what you call it, but a cover. And I was pumping on the plane to bring back milk to my child from Hong Kong. And all of the logistics that went with trying to nurse for the full year, working, new job, traveling. And if you can imagine, that's the story, that's the lead up. But so fast forward 1 year, I would say, of that and doing that consistently every single day, trying to be the best, building the team, all that
Yeah.
comes with that.
Yeah.
And it was
Because
just
that's like raising a family.
too much, right? That's on top of it. And it was just too much. And I actually went to an executive coach who asked me 3 questions. Question number 1 is, what's all the negative dialogue in your head? At that time, my immediate response was none. Remember, I'm on top of the world. But once I actually paused and thought, what happened next was a long list. And then question number 2 was, what does it all have in common? And my mind was, oh my God, it's a long list. And the answer was, it all starts with I. It's not, you're not good. They think this. It's I'm this, I'm that. And question number 3 was my aha moment. That was the boom, if you like. And the question was, who validated this? And the answer was, no one. No one had come and said, I'm not a good mom. My kids weren't like, Mom, you're horrible. My husband wasn't like, oh, you're a horrible wife, right? My employees weren't like, oh, you're a bad manager. My clients weren't, they're like, you're not delivering, right? It was,
it was a
all
story.
it was all the story I was telling myself from being totally, totally burnt out. I was just in complete burnout and didn't know it. And it was manifesting as this internal dialogue in my head. And so that was the lead up. And I actually had gone to a conference with an artist who had done a 52-week art display. And I just was like, that's it. I'm going to invest in myself for 52 weeks. I'm going to perform an act of self-care every week for 52 weeks. And I'm going to blog about it, because I want to hold myself accountable. And so that was the lead up. I did the 52 weeks of me, Jacklyn. I actually have a book somewhere around here where I wrote and right. And that was it. And I set out just to find some internal peace and to find me. That was honestly the original setup. But what that blogging did was transformative. My first few weeks were go on a shopping spree, get your nails done, very, very material. But by the end of the 52 weeks, it was stop being a people pleaser, let go. Just these non-physical, these things, the softer things that were just so paramount of finding myself. And what happened was I couldn't stop. COVID came. I got through COVID because I was blogging and I didn't want to stop. And 52 weeks became 55 weeks and 60 weeks. And I was like, oh, I need to do something. And so that's where the podcast was born. After the 52 weeks of writing for myself, I wanted to hold space for others. And so fast forward 52 weeks of me, the podcast was a platform to hold space for people to talk about what makes them their best self. And the topics ranged from everything from clothing to high performance teams to internal dialogue to glass ceilings. I mean, name it, we talked about it. We even talked about fashion and design and dating and romance and relationship, because all of these topics have one thing in common. And that's the finding your best self. And so that's what I set up to do with the podcast, was purely hold a platform for individuals. And I said, from those like me and maybe you who are individuals to coaches and experts. And I had some award-winning authors on there and very, very influential people, but it was the gamut, right? And that's what I set out to do. And then your last question and your 3-part question is, what did it end up being? Was a lifeline for me. It ended up being, I got as much joy from it as hopefully my guest got. And I remember I was on one session and I used to record on a snack table right to my left. And this was my work computer. And I remember turning and I said, I do that for money and I do this for joy. And that's what it ended up being, is it helped me create a community of people like me, similar to me, or not like me, but like me, if that makes sense.
Right.
We all had that common bond. And there are people who I've met once, and like you, I didn't know when I reached out. It was this cold call. I saw something, I liked a message, I read something, and I would just reach out, and it ended up creating almost a family and a community. And most importantly, an opportunity to learn and to grow.
What surprised you the most during that time frame about yourself? The biggest aha moment as you went through, all those episodes and all those learnings and all that introspective work that you were doing. What did you learn most about yourself?
One of my key moments was we all have the same amount of time in the day. We all have 24 hours. It's constant, but it's what we do with the 24 hours. And so the answer to your question of what I learned the most is that the things that matter most, we have time for. We have to prioritize the things that matter to us. And I was so amazed because I took a new job in it. I had this in it. I had that in it, right? There's always something. It's that famous words of busy. We're all busy, but are we productive? And so what I really found was that I can be the most productive. I can find time for the things that matter most. And at that time, that was the podcast and holding space. I still have people email me now to thank me for the opportunity to be on the show, to tell their story, to get it aired. And that was what I found most rewarding, was that when I shifted from talking about me to holding space for others, that amount of joy that I got and that priority that it had.
It's so interesting, like where you started and where you ended with it, like just yourself, the change within yourself. What about, so now talk about your role as a data leader. I'm curious, did the podcast change the way you led? Can you talk about that too? Like that authenticity piece and maybe you were the same person. It doesn't sound like you were, but.
No, I mean, I actually attribute it a little bit to the work I did through the podcast, but also
Mm,
motherhood and becoming a mother, because I think that those two things are actually very related. And what I genuinely think it did is it is that authenticity. Like my favorite saying is work hard, play hard. So I still have the same perfectionist tendencies, and I absolutely have high standards, right? I don't want to dismiss that. I do. But the answer to your question was not that. It was not my high standards, and it wasn't my work product, and it wasn't my ability to deliver. The answer to the question was the ability to see people as humans, the ability to show up as humans, the permission to be themselves. And I think that's the difference that I had, was I was able to start each conversation with, hi, how are you? How was your weekend? How was your day? How is your family? Right? We all have life, and we all have bad things. Bad things happen to good people, and our employees are humans, right? And I want them to show up as their whole self. And I would say that's the thing that changed for me, is seeing them beyond the profit margin and behind the project and behind
right.
the ability to
Timelines.
deliver, because the bottom line, because I can teach that to anybody. But what
Right.
you can't teach is that permission to be you. And I
Yeah.
will tell you that what I found is focusing on that internal self care and that mindset. Happy people deliver better returns. Happy people are better
Wow.
employees. And that's what I found.
Wow. And that's really against conventional wisdom. Like the consultants, the McKinseys of the world, when they come in and make all the suggestions on how you should be doing things, they don't mention that one.
Yeah. Work hard, work harder, work your
Mm.
hardest, right? Burnout. Burnout is now a badge of honor, right? Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
worked 10 hours today.
Yeah.
I worked 12. I
Right.
commute 3
Yeah.
hours. These are the things that people are talking about. But
Right.
I don't. There was a great book that, of course, I forgot the author right now, but it's all about this minimalist theory, and
Yeah.
less is more. And I genuinely believe that sometimes. Like, let's stop honoring those that are the first ones in and the last ones out.
Right.
Because where is our KPI around output? Where is our KPI around productivity? And most important is happiness. Like, why are we not monitoring those things? Like, one of the things that I pride myself on is not just having employees who stay. Like, I don't have a high turnover, but I actually have employees who have been with me not from one company, not even from two companies. I have employees who have been with me at 3 and 4 companies.
Wow.
And I think that's the difference, is because, again, and anyone who knows me, I have high standards. We work very hard. I am absolutely a recovering workaholic, and maybe even a relapse alcoholic,
Oh,
workaholic.
we couldn't tell.
But this is what matters, right? It's not that we work hard. They work hard because we see them for who they are, and they want to do it, right?
Right.
It's that happy factor. Again, happy
Totally.
people are productive. You try to get someone to do a 12-hour shift when they're not happy, not helpful, right? Not productive. But
Or
a
a 2 hour
happy
shift.
person, right? Exactly. Exactly.
So what was the reaction of your team during this time frame? Because you're super type A, you're a driver, you have very high expectations for yourself. I can't imagine I would have wanted to work for you before, the old Jacklyn. But what was some of the feedback you received from the team, and even to this day, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah, I'll give you some,
About
like,
you, not about the nuts and
yeah.
bolts of the job, but
No, the me, right? So
yeah.
words such as aggressive, words such as loud, words such as high expectations, right? The earlier Jacklyn was often on that end, short,
Mhm.
curt, right? Matter of fact, right? I didn't have time. Exactly. I didn't have time for the pleasantries of, hi, how are you? So I would, especially was working at a UK bank, you know, the Brits, I'm married to one, but the Brits are much more collegiate and talkative, right? And I wasn't. I was the New Yorker. And so those were the before feedback. But the new feedback was the caring, compassionate, ready to help, leaning in, working hard, right? It was those type of words where I was still the same me, and it wasn't the what I was doing, but it was the how, right? This is actually a really good one. The before would, and let me get it right, would react instead of responding. But now that moment between the catalyst and the action, that reaction is the key. I can pause, take a minute, and say, how can I reframe this and how can I respond in a way that's meaningful? Another one was very
not just pleasantries, not acting like you were listening, but literally active listening.
Right. But also in a way that it wasn't going to blow up, right? Like when you're walking on eggshells and you're short fused, you've got, let's call it a temper, right? But you've got this ability just to like ants in your pants, right? You're always doing.
And there are triggers.
Exactly. There's always something, right? But that ability to calm down and remove the ants in your pants to actually, you know, respond and be present is take a deep breath. That's probably the biggest change from the before and the after.
Do you miss it?
The podcasting.
I mean, it's a pretty lengthy podcast. Yeah.
I do. I really, really do. And it's, and I my podcast mic is right there behind me. And
see it. Get the dust, blow the dust off.
I do think about it multiple times. I really do. And, you know, maybe whether it's a 2026 thing or a 2027 thing or a 2028 thing, what I can tell you with certainty is it's not over. I will absolutely do it again, and do it because it's like, it's almost like a retirement, if that makes sense. Like, because I didn't ever do that for money. I purely did it for joy and to keep my brain fresh and to make new contacts and to grow and learn and all those things. So the answer to your question is 100% yes, I miss it. And 100% yes, there will be more episodes. It's just a matter of when. Right now, I've got one kid who's a senior who's in full recruiting for college. I've got a freshman who comes with all of the puberty and maturity of that. And then I have a third grader who is just learning with big emotions and dealing with himself. So as soon as we can find some space on the home life, I absolutely will pick it back up.
Just because you went there, we'll go there very quickly. You mentioned your kids. Obviously, they mean the world to you. Isn't it amazing? They get older, you think they need you less, but in fact, they need you less for the tactical, you know, get your pants on, get dressed, make you a sandwich. But the emotional need, I would even say, especially, you have 3 boys, correct?
For sure.
Yeah, especially boys with mom. They tend to really need mom more as they get older. What do you find in your household?
100%. And as I said, I have a 10-year age gap. So I've got from elementary through middle school and now high school. And I absolutely agree. My oldest is driving. So talk about the epitome of independence. But at the same time, there are things he's navigating, right? Navigating placement tests, navigating losing big games, navigating injuries, navigating emotional, right? Relationships and friendships and getting ready to be out of the house. I mean, this is his last year home. So there absolutely is so much opportunity to be present. And what I would say though, especially with boys, it's just being there because they might not want to cuddle and sit next to you every night, but just knowing that if they call you, you'll pick up. If they need you, you will drop everything and be there. And I think that's the biggest for me. We actually had a pretty bad week over here I can't even tell you everything to an oil heater breaking, to a car accident, to a sprained ankle, to a surgery. Tough. But right at the end of it, it's like that village that we've created, we make it work. Right. And it's
together.
that ability to ask. Actually, that was one of the weeks of the blog, but ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And I have that mindset is kind of my door is 100% always open. And that's another one. If a child walked in right now, a few years ago, I would have been, oh, get out,
Right.
Now, like if it was in work, you pause, you turn your camera off 1 minute. My child's here. I turn and I ask them what they need, right? They're not interrupting me. That's not their intention. They need something and I need to figure that out and address them and not be angry that they're bothering me.
Totally. So as a proud father of 2 daughters, entering the workforce, I'm generally curious, what advice, and I know you're a mom of boys, but we're going to pivot to women for a moment. What advice would you have for young women entering the workforce, entering the data space? Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for them as they begin to navigate their careers? Said another way, what would the current Jacklyn tell the younger Jacklyn growing in this professionally?
I'm going to answer 2 totally different paths because I think both are important. One that you can't truly control and one that you can totally control. So in the one that you can't totally control, what you can is find a supportive spouse. And I genuinely mean that because you can absolutely have it all. Hear me say this. Ladies, girls, you can have it all. You can work, you can mother, you can wife, you can friend, you can. But you can't always have it all at the same time. So finding that village and in setting yourself up to have a supportive network, especially with your spouse, is game changing. I can't tell you that how thankful I am to have my husband be the primary caregiver and my mother to move to live around the corner for me and my brother who's here, right? Like you need something we call, even friends, right? Because that's what it takes is you get stuck. Trains don't work. Traffic happens. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to believe in yourself. I think, and this is the controlling, because I think more often than not, boys have a natural sense of confidence. It's almost cocky. Girls, in my experience, sit behind the table, sit in the back row. That confidence tends to lack or dim. I don't want to say lack, but what I would say is believe in yourself, because if you act as if, it will come true. And I strongly believe
100%.
that. And I think that's probably the best advice I can give is like, if you want something, set the goal and go and get it. Don't wait for someone to give it to you. So between those 2 things, right, get a good support system is a little secondary, and then go and get what you want. Yeah. Hopefully those 2 things. Absolutely. And then in terms of the data space, just one little plug for data is always be learning. I got super lucky. I've actually been in the data space my entire career. I call it the right place at the right time, but I also capitalized on that luck because I've continued to learn and lean in. And the data space, what was in 2002, and I'm not joking, that's when I started, right, is very different from what it is now. Even the past 5 years, right, with AI and automation and just staying relevant and being a continuous learner is key in the data space.
Jacklyn, we could go on for hours, but you cannot, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Thank you for your time. This is fantastic. Your
As I said, it's
amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. You've made my day. So I am ending here on a high. My smile will be going. Everyone's at work is to be like, why are you so happy? So thank you for that.
Right back at you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.